Johannes, welcome to the podcast. It's nice having you after having some technical issues, but we made it, hopefully. You are the co-founder of Youth Health Tech, a startup which wants to make preventative health actually a lot more accessible. Maybe before we start talking about youth health, could you maybe introduce yourself briefly and then maybe also give an introduction what you're doing with your startup?
Of course. Hi, Toby. Thanks for the invitation to your show. I'm excited to be here and tell you today a bit about myself, and then, of course, a lot about Youth, which is the company we are building. Maybe something to my background. I have a mixed background. Started my career as physical therapist, experienced firsthand the problems of the healthcare system in Germany. And then switched my career and got another degree in management and technology from Technical University of Munich, and gathered some experience in the insurance and consulting industry. So worked a lot in insurance innovation, and then ultimately built an AI marketplace for a reinsurance company. And at one point I decided, okay, now I've learned enough. I've understood healthcare, I've understood insurance, I have understood kind of how much you can understand the venture building. So I built my own company, and that's where I met my co-founder Filippo, and we started Youth together, which was like 2 years ago.
Great. Thanks for the brief introduction. I think you already highlighted a couple of things that I would like to catch up already on. For instance, I mean, you mentioned earlier that you already did sort of a venture for an insurance company. So you already built a business, and I also saw that you actually built a business also in the physiotherapy space, right? For low back pain, is that correct? So you already had some projects before, entrepreneurial projects that paved the way for your current journey. Could you maybe give us, an idea what lessons you learned, throughout those projects, and for you yourself as an entrepreneur, but also for youth?
I think when you have the entrepreneurial spirit in you, it's very hard to not live that. So on every stage of my career, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So when I was a physiotherapist at first, I built a small app for low back pain together with my brother, and we did some customer exploration, some user interviews, built the first prototype and so on. But I didn't have an idea of how business models work, how you actually grow that. So that's why I decided, okay, I need to go to university again to learn more about that business side. And then at my second step at the reinsurance company, where we actually built a venture, it was basically the same process what I'm doing right now. So you start at zero, and you need to arrive to a point where you have some interest of customers, clients, users to use your product. So the 0 to 1 is something you always have to do, no matter if you do your own startup or if you build it for someone else. I think what was a bit different is that, for example, now we think a lot in terms of fundraising. How much do I need to raise? How much capital can I deploy in an efficient way, and so on. When you build for a big corporate in this venture building style, that's different, because you usually don't so much worry about fundraising. It's much more long-term, and you are much more in the structures of a big corporate. Everything comes with pros and cons, but that was my main learnings. And one other thing I want to share is, I think the most success of early stage companies comes from the fact of the team. So who is building that? How do they work together? How complementary they are? I think that is, no matter where you build it, if you bootstrap it, VC back it, or venture build it in a corporate venture building style, the team is always everything.
I mean, you mentioned already you are originally a physiotherapist, and looking at the website of Youth, it's mentioned that you sort of, your background actually triggered an obsession with the current entrepreneurial journey you are sort of at right now. Could you maybe elaborate a bit more on sort of the obsession part and your background in physiotherapy? Why is that topic so, relevant and, close to your heart?
Yes, it sounds a bit bad, but physiotherapy really frustrated me. Because you have to imagine it in the following way. You go to work every day and patients come to you and ask you for help. So you need to fix their problems, and they always come with problems which are in 90% avoidable. So they come when they have low back pain. They come when they have knee pain. They come when they have a problem resulting out of diabetes. Then they come to you. And what I would like to do is to release this dependency that they have to come to you and you help them. I would love that they have the tools and opportunities to help themselves. That's the first thing. And the second is, I would love to see a system where the people do something before the bad things happen. Is very difficult, but that's where we need to go. Is always too late when they come. So when we pitch youth, we usually have a slide where we say 3 in 4 diagnoses are coming too late. So when you would catch them earlier, you could save suffering of the patients, you can save money for the insurers, you can save beds and capacity of the healthcare system in general. So it's insane, and that's 75%. And this is it is, my example is in physical therapy, but I think in every health profession is like that. So that's what triggered me in the beginning to say, I really want to build in the preventative healthcare space.
And then let's move on to the founding story. I mean, you're already alluding to it a little bit, but how, you mentioned already your co-founders as well. How did you all find together? When was sort of the moment where you realized, hey, you know, we're going to go on that journey and start building youth health tech? How did that come about?
So for me, it was very clear that I want to build in this preventative space, and I explored the problems and knew this is the way where I want to go. And there was Filippo, who was also exploring that space, more coming from a longevity angle. So I think we will go there in a discussion, what is prevention, what is longevity. But in the end, we were working on the same problem. And Filippo came with a very interesting idea because he had discovered a nice Google paper where he said you can detect a diabetic status just via a phone screening. And then he looked into competitors and so on, and we realized, okay, there are a lot of technology what you can use to detect diseases and risk factors just from the smartphone. And I always wanted to build this one place for prevention because I think it's very fragmented and not very accessible. And he had this platform idea, so I joined his idea, and we started this youth company, and that's what we are doing today. So we are doing a smartphone-based health screening. So you just take your phone, take different data inputs, and have one preventative checkup just from the phone. But then it was 2 business guys wanting to execute an idea which is very technical. So we knew from the very beginning, okay, we need a third co-founder. And Yuri joined a bit later, but Yuri is our third co-founder and has built a lot of ML models with FDA approval and in this medical space before. So he was the ideal profile, and we just hunted for the profile at one point, and he joined us luckily. And that's how the 3 of us work together, yeah.
Great. So both of you guys, you had a business background, your third co-founder more of a technical background. Do you guys, I mean, I imagine that, as you mentioned, it's nothing easy to build. Do you also have, let's say, external advisors or other people, expertise from the domain who sort of joined you early on to build the product to make it very much, close to whatever the patients or the users actually need? Are there people with maybe medical background who joined you early on?
Yeah, so we have enriched our advisor board exactly in that direction. So Yuri worked in the medical space before with the algorithms, and I have some medical background with physical therapy, but that's obviously not enough. So on our board, there are medical advisors, which are deep into this longevity and preventative medicine. And on our board, there are experts at the intersection between AI and medicine. So how can you translate signals, which can detect with AI and machine learning algorithms, into real medical outcomes? So this intersection is really rare. So that's where we have some advisors on the board.
You already started explaining your product, which I would like to, go a bit deeper on right now. So maybe give us a better understanding what youth health tech is all about. It's an application. On your website, you say it lets you actually screen 50 plus biomarkers in less than 2 minutes. What is that all about? Give us maybe an introduction what youth health tech is all about.
Sure. I would love to start with the problem. So we have already talked a lot about prevention, the problem of the healthcare system. I think when I go out on the street and ask people, hey, do you want to live healthy? Everyone will say yes. Do you want to live a long life, a long and healthy life? Most people will say yes. But when you look in the numbers of prevention, almost no one is doing it, or at least not following it in a comprehensive way. And we were questioning, okay, why is that? And from our perspective, the entry barriers are too high. Because when you are feeling healthy, you're feeling in good condition, why would you go into a doctor's room? Why would you wait there for 3 hours? Why would you have the pain of scheduling a cardiovascular appointment with 6 weeks waiting time? You don't want to do that. So our take was, let's remove all this barrier and make screenings accessible. So the most accessible way we can have is to have it on the phone. No extra hardware, no scheduling, not going anywhere, just sitting at home, doing a check with your phone. That was our starting point. So what did we do out of that? We have developed a screening where you take your phone and you have 4 main data inputs. One is a face video, so you take it in front of your face for like 40 to 60 seconds, and it records your face. Then we have an audio recording. Imagine it like a WhatsApp audio. We have pictures of your eyes and pictures of parts of your skin. And we take all this data, run some algorithms on top of it, and screen, as you said, for more than 50 digital biomarkers in 10 health areas. This spreads from very popular like cardiovascular health. So your heart rate, your blood pressure, your heart rate variability, over sections like mental health and brain health, which we get from the voice, and also more general things like metabolic health status, which we get from the eye picture, or an aging acceleration measurement, which we also get from the phone and the measurements in the gyroscope sensor. So all of this combined in one app. What is very important, this is a fast and easy access point, is not a medical diagnosis. It will not replace a blood test or an MRI or a doctor visit, but it gives you this areas of attention where it tells you, hey, Toby, your heart health is super cool, but your mental health, you should really work on that. Maybe you want to see someone, maybe you want to do an additional test to detect that before you develop something severe. This was obviously just an example. I know you just for 20 minutes.
It was a great introduction to your product, actually. I mean, thank you very much. That's something that I observed, right? In your website, you're saying this is not a diagnostics. It's not supposed to, it's not supposed to replace, a visit to the doctor, but it's sort of another aspect that can help you to sort of decrease that barrier to actually get involved with preventative health, right? That's what it's all about. Another thing which I found quite exciting is when you go to your website, right? You see all those scientific papers that you base your product on, right? Is that a challenge, right? You're in a scientific space. Is it a challenge to sort of convey to the user that you're sort of a trusted product? Is it something that is challenging for you guys?
It's a very interesting topic you touch here. I don't know if you know the Sequoia Arc product market fit model. But our product falls into a sci-fi area, because it's like you look in your phone and you know your health status is a bit like, for the most people, is like, I don't know, autonomous driving is in the same category, right? It sounds a bit like too futuristic, too good to be true. So people question that. And the thing we need to solve to get to mass adoption is that we overcome this trust barrier. So this is the most important thing we need to get. And people do not trust it by nature. And that's very interesting, because a doctor, they just trust by default because he's a doctor. Or the home device of measuring the blood pressure, they just trust by default because it seems like, okay, it comes with it comes in a nice packaging, it measures that, okay, should be true. But even if our accuracy is the same as the home device has much more trust than our app by default. And we need to constantly work on that. So we need to do a lot of knowledge work. We need to explain it good. We need to choose the right partners to work together. We need to integrate with the healthcare system. The doctors and insurers trust it. So it's a lot of work to do here, and is very fundamental for us. And that's why we have all these studies, because everything we use in our product is clinically validated. It's not a medical device which can make a diagnosis by itself, but is also not supposed to do that. So it's just a device which can clinically validated measure things which help you to where you should go, what in addition you should do, and how to optimize your lifestyle.
Great. That's great. I mean, I think we're going to talk a bit about distribution later as well, but could you maybe also walk us through what does the typical user experience look like for, let's say, a normal regular user who downloads your app? Give us maybe some idea how that would look like.
Yeah, so we mainly work in a B2B2C business model, which means we have partners which distribute it for us. But you as an end user at one point will receive a QR code or have the opportunity to download it. And then at first in the onboarding flow, we give you a lot of purpose, because we want you not only to, that's another app like Duolingo, Instagram, WhatsApp, or whatever, but to feel, okay, why am I using this app? So it's a lot about the problems we have in healthcare, how we can change that with technology and so on. And then it starts immediately with the screening. So you do immediately this face scan and a voice scan. Then you put in some data. Most important for us is the sex and age, and maybe the height and weight. These are the 4 parameters which are most important for us. You can put in more, like your family history or your own health history, but it's not necessarily needed. And then you get your first result, which is after, I think in the onboarding, after 5 minutes, you arrive at your first result, having your first health score. This will be optimized and get better over time when you measure more, but is already your first point to arrive. And then we give you some personalized recommendations. And I think here is where the future goes a lot, because when you have so many biomarkers, and especially when you have them over time, the recommendation get more and more personalized and are for you. Because I think everyone will profit from walk more, eat healthier. But I think that's so intangible that this is not enough to change lifestyle of people. So that's why you really need to make it personalized. And that's what we are trying to do in those recommendations. And I think here we see the major improvements in the future within our company, but also with other companies, to personalize those recommendations. And then you can follow it, but always will have to recheck with your phone. You can do it every week, every month. We will remind you, depending a bit on how good or how severe your health status is. The better it is, the less checks are required. But that's usually how the users our experience, our app. And they also like to check regularly because they see their trend lines. They are a bit competitive when they see, my score is only 78 and I could go to 100. Or we have this aging bucket where they see, my coworker is younger than she actually is. I am not. So they get competitive on that. So that's usually what our users experience.
What did you guys actually see in the market prior to founding Youth Health Tech? Was there any preventative health applications that seemed to, address the same problem but didn't solve anything? What was it like before? What sort of the competitive landscape look like?
The competitive landscape in this area is interesting because it is a lot up to you how you define it, who is playing in that field. So I think you have the regular preventative doctor checkups. That was a bit the origin. And we learned already today that, okay, it doesn't really work or is not a lot of people do it. And then you have everything new in that area, which is, for example, those blood tests, right? There are a lot of companies which send you blood tests at home, or you have a studio where you can go and have a quick blood test. It's nice. They have a lot of biomarkers. They're quite accurate, but still you need to go there or have the hassle with doing the blood test yourself. Then you could argue that all the wearables are playing in that space, like Aura, Whoop, Apple Watches, Garmin. It's a bit the question how many biomarkers they can measure and how accessible this is, because the newest Whoop is, I think, $400 plus 30 per month, something like that. So very non-accessible. And then we have seen, this is the most closest to us, other smartphone-based health screenings. And there are a lot of apps, skin checks, heart checks, mental health checks during COVID, a lot development in that areas. And what we've seen is that they are all very single focused. So they are always targeting one technology, one health area, one disease monitoring. No one has bundled them and has built a holistic and comprehensive checkup. And since we wanted to build a preventative use case, we think the only way is to go holistic. The only way is to go in this comprehensive matter, because you do not benefit if you know your heart is super, but the next day you get lung cancer, right? So there's nothing what helps you. So you want to check as much as possible, and our users appreciate that it's so holistic and you can combine biomarkers from different health areas into one. That's a bit our competitive edge we are playing. But yeah, this is what I see in this preventative landscape overall. So a lot of things going on. I think is not solved completely yet.
And you're actually working together with other companies, right? That do screening, sort of they are incorporated in your application, if I understood correctly. How does that work? Because as you mentioned, there's particular screening providers that focus on one particular thing. And from what I've heard is that you work together with them, or how do these partnerships look like?
That's right. So we've seen that there are many of these technology providers, and our big belief is that this technology will be commoditized. Like, imagine it's the early 2000s, and there are two companies which have developed a touch screen. But in 5 years from now, every company will have a touch screen, and it's not a competitive edge to build a touch screen because there will be so many providers, so you can just buy touch screens. I think this will be the same for screening technology. So to getting a blood pressure from a video or a heart rate from a video is what 25 companies are doing at the moment. So we just license the best one, or we just license 2-3 different ones, which we can then compare to each other and find the best one for this use case. For example, I don't know, some work better in other skin milestones. Some have GDPR compliance, others don't. So we always can find within our platform the best algorithm performing for our clients. And so we have multiple of them integrated into us, licensed, and use them all. And then there are some parts which are not covered by technology yet. And this is what we build ourselves. There we build own IP. But the main part, so I think more than half, even 2/3, I would say, come from licensing other technology and bundling it together in one place.
Great. I would do a little question section about the industry as a whole. And one question that I always like to ask is, and since there's a lot of confusion about a lot of noise in terms of how do you actually define what you actually do, right? So there's a lot of terms flying around. There's wellness, there's preventative health, there's longevity, there's, fitness, health, whatever. In all this noise, where do you position sort of what youth health tech does?
Let's first, let me give you my view on the terms longevity and prevention or functional health, because I think it's the same thing, which just new naming and maybe a question of how extreme am I. Longevity means, okay, you take care of your biomarkers and try to optimize them, which means, okay, I'm not getting sick. I'm trying to maintain a high level of VO2 max, good heart rate variability, low body fat, whatever it is. When you take prevention, it does the same thing. It screens you for that you don't get sick. You do, cancer screenings that you detect that if there is something. And then also you optimize your blood pressure. You also try not to be overweight, but reduce body fat, right? So it's the same thing. It's just has a new name, has with Brian Johnson, the poster boy in the US, and a real hype in the US. Prevention is a bit more the older term, but ultimately it's the same thing. Maybe prevention is less extreme than longevity, but you're doing always the same things and are going in the same direction. Then there is this term of, you mentioned wellness, you called it. I think the main differentiation between wellness and healthcare is that the wellness is much more driven by the end user. So healthcare is more in the hands of doctors and healthcare professionals, whereas wellness is more user driven. And I think that's the trend where health goes as it turns from a sick care perspective to a more healthcare perspective. Because user get this awareness of their health, they will change how they interact with it and how they take care of it. That's why they do this longevity stuff. That's why they do prevention. And this is much more, the user is in the driving seat and he uses professions to achieve the best outcome for themselves. And this is ultimately wellness. And wellness services support the user to achieve those outcomes. Whereas in healthcare, there's, as I mentioned earlier in this talk, there's a lot of dependency of the, not user, of the patient on doctors, on physical therapists, on healthcare professionals. And I think we see as health moves to consumers that we see much more going on in this wellness space and reduce this dependency on the healthcare, on the healthcare system.
Interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Do you have any, let's say, aspect in mind overall in the industry that is oftentimes overlooked from your view and also maybe from the view of youth health tech? Because at the end of the day, you guys also sort of challenging the status quo. Anything that's overlooked from your view?
So I think in the last years, we have all gone crazy on data and measuring. And I think that's good. This space is now a bit crowded in a positive way, because we need all this data. Otherwise, we cannot do good decisions. We cannot bring this into the hand of the end user. That's good. That's why we are also playing there. I think what is a bit overlooked is this recommendation side. And I think that's still not nailed or not solved yet. So I think, how can you make sense out of all this data? What are really recommendations which are personalized enough that they trigger the user, which change enough that behavior can change? Because if I tell you, hey, Toby, eat more salad, and I tell you this for 10 years, and you don't like salad, you will never change it. So recommendations also need to change, that a behavior change is triggered. I think those are the two things which are not solved yet. And I think there's a great chance to use all those new LLMs to support with that. But I have not seen it solved yet. So I'm very excited to what companies will appear in that space. Maybe it's with partnerships, or who will solve it. So I think that's a bit overlooked, and it was always overlooked. Because also from a traditional point of view, doctors, when they do their preventative checkup, okay, cancer screening, check, okay, blood test, check, that's your problem. But what happens then? Okay, you need to lose 5 kilograms of weight. No follow-up, no real structure how to do it, no information on you should eat carrots or beans. You don't know what the user likes. So it was never there, and is also not there yet, or at least not completely there yet.
So from what I understand, you also have an optimistic view about the future, right?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Otherwise,
No,
we
I mean,
would have not started.
exactly. I mean, it sounds fascinating, right? Imagine having someone who supports you with all that and coaches you. Let's talk again a bit more about youth health tech, and let's say, more about the aspects of growth and scaling the company. So I was wondering now, how long have you guys been sort of live? Are you already live with an application for users, for end customers? What's sort of the status quo right now in terms of go-to market? Do you have customers? Who are your customers? You already mentioned before that distribution goes through B2B2C. What's sort of the current status in terms of go-to market for you guys at Youth Health Tech?
Yeah, correct. So I think ultimately technology like that needs to be in the hand of the end user. When we started, we were thinking of a B2C model, but you very quickly discovered that in health tech is extremely expensive to build this. So we've seen examples like Headspace or Calm in this mental health space, where there is a lot of money spent in marketing and keywords just to build these brands before they even scale. It was so expensive. And it was possible in 2021 with the VC bubble going crazy, but in 23, 24, it was not like that anymore. So we decided, okay, let's not go down this hole, and let's build it in a B2B2C way, because of two aspects. One, it's still in the hand of the end user. And second, we gain all this trust by integrating with existing healthcare partners. So the B part in our current model are mainly private clinics and insurances. So we distribute this through private prevention clinics, private longevity clinics, which give the app to the users, and the clinic pays us. We have now an insurance pilot where the insurance pays us and gives the app for free to their end users. So this is our main model. We have opened a test version for B2C, just that users can try it out, but we do not do any marketing on B2C side. And are not opening it yet for end users only.
Mhm. Could you give us maybe some metrics in terms of customers or number of customers, or
Yeah,
is there any, let's say, MRR or anything that you guys sort of
sure.
that you can already share?
Yeah. So right now our user numbers were kind of small. So we had around 2,000 users on the app. This will now get much bigger with the insurance. So I'm looking forward to that. In terms of MRR, we are around 50k MRR at the moment, and have therefore around 15 clients, which are mainly clinics, and then the one insurance we launched now.
And what are the milestones in terms of go-to-market for the coming months and years? Can you disclose that already, or what sort of what's what
The
are the goals?
milestones the milestones are always grow as fast as possible. I think what is a main inflection point for us is when we will get multiple insurances converted to production, because then also the underlying system of how health insurance works will change, because you have this very continuous data of health users and can really act as a health insurance. I think so. This will be one inflection point. And on the clinic side, this is now a growth play. We try to build a sales book where we can then very automate this way of growing those clinics. I think we are still early here, and this is our next steps to automate that more. So I think we will reach 1 million ARR now soon in the summer, and then I think in the next year we can for sure, or we should aim for sure to 5x it. So that's something where we want to go.
I was wondering, because I was looking at your LinkedIn, and I was just wondering, because it says sort of Germany and the US. Where are you guys based? I mean, where are sort of your customers at this point? I was just wondering, are you guys also, I mean, probably you're more in Europe, I would assume. Maybe you can clarify that. Or are you guys also intending to go to the US? Are you already in the US? What sort of, where are you guys located? Could you share some words about that?
Yeah, this goes a bit into this wellness discussion we had before. Since we are building a product in the wellness space, which does not require medical approval in a sense of, oh, you need to work with the authorities 3 years until you can start, we are a bit more flexible in our target markets. And we have analyzed basically the whole world, and I think the US market is the most interesting market because it moves the fastest into this consumer wellness, and this longevity hype there is bigger, and they are by nature a bit more keen to try out new things. So that's a very, very good market for us. And we see Europe because the healthcare system is also not ideal. So the price sensitivity is not that crazy high. So those are our two main markets. Whereas, for example, Africa or India or Southeast Asia, they are too price sensitive for us at the moment. So those US and Europe, US should move faster, but at the beginning of this company, we just have more personal network in Europe. That's why we're growing in Europe a bit faster than in the US. Still, we are preparing to grow US as well. At the moment, we are going a bit back and forth. We are located in Berlin, Germany, but are from time to time in the US to start this business development there as well. I think ultimately, when we are really at scale, we can bring down unit economic costs, and then it gets a really interesting a product for also low budget markets. So imagine you have India with so many people there. The healthcare system is not super, super good, but almost everyone has a smartphone. So there you can have a real impact. You just need to get down prices, And I think this we will achieve by scale. And then in the long term, that's why we also have this in our mission, that we really want to enable it, unlock it for everyone, or for 8 billion people. Sounds very ambitious, but that's our goal, that it's really, at one point, it should be really accessible for everyone.
I was actually thinking about that statement right now when you were talking about those, let's say, expansion ideas. I'm actually also half Brazilian, and I spent a lot of time in Brazil, and their adoption rates for smartphones is also huge, right? I mean,
yeah.
Also interesting market. I mean, they just use it differently than here in Europe. It's crazy. I mean, they're addicted to that stuff. But it's okay.
Yeah.
I have to be cautious what I say. But high adoption rates, also in terms of fintech, right? They're a lot more advanced in Europe oftentimes. Interesting. Maybe, one more question. I mean, you already gave a lot of insights about your partnerships, firms that you work with. Could you give us more of a view how important partnerships in general are for your strategy? Also in terms of maybe, you've already had fundraising from investors. Could you give us an idea? Who are your partners, investors? What's sort of the strategy there?
Yeah. Let's start with the fundraising part. So we got a very early ticket from an investor called Antler. It's a day zero investor. They really just believe in the team and the market. No idea or product developed at that point. So they really believed in us very early. So I'm happy about that. And then we raised the pre-seed last year, and we will raise our seed round now this summer. So that's where we stand in terms of fundraising. We try to get in usually angels which really have a belief in that idea, and we try to get on board VCs which have contacts and knowledge in that health tech space. So you need to be connected to some insurances. You need to be connected a bit to the healthcare system. That helps us the most, because, and now I'm coming to the second part, we want to partner. So we want to partner with clinics, with health insurances at the moment. That's our go-to market. And we overcome this trust barrier by partnering with them. They help us to distribute faster. So that's what we are seeking for. And that's why we also like VCs which have some context or at least some understanding of that.
Great. Sounds amazing. We're already coming close to an end, but before that, I would like to, give you a couple of questions about the outlook for you also personally, and for youth. So you're envisioning youth to become sort of the universal entry point for health and wellness services, if I understand it correctly. What sort of the vision? You already highlighted a lot of things, but maybe, beyond that, is it also possible to integrate other services? So what sort of anything you missed saying that you would like to share about your overall vision and mission for youth?
Yeah, let me divide this in 3 parts. So first of all, I think the entry point, what we want to be, needs to be a measurement thing. Because when you do not measure anything, how do you plan your next steps, or on what basis do you want to do anything? So a measurement and an accessible measurement possibility is for us the entry point. Then I think we talked a lot about an app, but I think the second part is we need to say goodbye to the imagination that is only an app. I think of it much more as an integrated platform, which is basically integrated in your life. Because we are recording this now for the podcast, we could also record this video to check our health status. And you leave your Zoom call and it tells you, hey, Toby, your heart rate is higher than usual. Maybe you're developing a flu. Or you leave your car and it tells you, hey, you have more signs of being anxious at the moment. Do you want to do this, I don't know, anxiety relief app, or do you want to do a yoga session? So I think of it much more fluent and integrated. I think that's the second part. And when we have all of this achieved, which is already a big thing, then I think also all services on top, healthcare services, insurance services, can change their nature. Because right now, an insurance judges you a lot on, okay, do you smoke? Is there a risk? Are you obese? Is there a risk? How many family problems did you have? Is there a risk? But why can't we change that and build a health insurance which says, hey, if you do a health check every year, you get 10% off. If you can prove that you eat no sugar, we give you 10% off, whatever. So I think we can really turn it around, and there are multiple options. Health insurance is one, health services are others, where we can really change that fundamentally and put the health in the center and not the sickness. And those are the three parts where I think we can go in the future. But I hope until then we will speak again, and I will give you an update on how this works out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And maybe in the coming months, what is sort of business-wise, what's the roadmap? What does the roadmap look like? What is sort of your ambition? I mean, I assume continuing probably go to market, getting partnerships, but maybe give us an idea.
Yeah, I think three things which are on the roadmap is, one, we do more integrations of existing models so that our application gets even more holistic, because this holistic comprehensive is one of the main value propositions we have. And then we will optimize our recommendation engine. So this is now in an early stage, but I think there comes an iterative process to optimize it. And third one is we are building an interactive chat. So imagine that you can chat with your own health, because I think a lot of people do not understand, okay, what does this mean? What does this mean for me? And so on. And I think when we give them the opportunity to chat with their health, so, hey, your health score is 67, and then, okay, what does it mean? How can I improve it? What does it mean for me personal? Is this bad in my age? I don't know. You can ask a lot of questions and can basically talk to your own heart or to your own heart health. I think that's a very interesting angle for users. And yeah, that's on the roadmap for the next month.
Great, Johannes. We're coming to an end. Maybe beyond youth, is there anything you would like to share that comes up to your mind? Anything that you feel like is worth sharing?
Yes, there is something. I don't know where all your listeners are, but I assume more in Europe, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I think the healthcare space in Europe needs a lot of great entrepreneurs, because it has a lot of problems, and a lot of problems means a lot of potential for solutions. So to all the people out there which have an idea or are somehow motivated, go down in that space, build your own company. This space needs more companies. It needs good people who improve that space.
Great. That's a great final statement. Johannes, thank you very much for your time. And despite initial technical issues, we managed it. And yeah, very curious to see where your journey continues going.
Yes. Thank you, Toby. Thank you so much.